Rich is ready. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. This meeting, this listening session of the Montana Public Service Commission is called to order. My name is Jennifer Fielder. I'm the Vice President of the Montana Public Service Commission, and I will be chairing the meeting this evening. I represent District 4, and with me, we have Commissioner Annie Bukacek from the adjoining district to the north, based out of Kalispell, but her district joins us here in the Missoula area as well. For the record, the time is 6:01 p.m. The date is August 22nd, 2023. And we are conducting this listening session from the Missoula College Learning Center located at 1205 East Broadway Avenue in Missoula, Montana, and also by Zoom. We are pleased to be here on the beautiful campus of this wonderful university. The purpose of this session is to receive public comments on Northwestern Energy's 2023 Integrated Resource Plan, which has been assigned Commission docket number 2022.11.102. Please note that this listening session does not concern Northwestern Energy's request for increased rates or for electric or natural gas service, which is under a separate docket, which is 2022.0707A. So if you'd like to comment on that proceeding, you'll need to comment within that docket. I will ask all commenters to please stay on the topic of Northwestern Energy's 2023 Integrated Resource Plan. That is the subject of tonight's listening session. We will conclude this listening session by 8 p.m. this evening. So we will get a head count on how many people would like to speak tonight, and then we'll have to allocate the time to make sure everyone who would like to speak gets a chance to do so. We will also be taking further comments through August 28th by email and through our Public Service Commission's Consumer Assistance Program staff. They can continue to take your comments in writing or by phone calls or by logging into our ready computer system. So this tonight will not close public comment, but it is an important step. Before we get going, there's a couple of things we want to do for housekeeping. And the first one, we'll have our staff legal counsel, Dan Polko, give us a little brief overview of the laws on resource planning and what the purpose of this meeting is and what we can and can't do. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Fielder. One also quick thing is the Commission encourages all commenters to review Northwestern's plan. That can be found on the homepage of the Commission's website under the What's Trending headline or heading. Answers to many of your questions that may come up tonight may be found in the detailed explanations and tables included in that plan. I will now begin with a brief summary of the law on resource planning. Under the statutes enacted by the Montana legislature and the administrative rules adopted by the Public Service Commission, each public utility that provides electric and natural gas service must prepare and file a long-range plan every 3 years. This long-range plan is known as an Integrated Resource Plan, or IRP. The planning process advances the state's interest in efficient utility operations, efficient use of utility services, and efficient rates. Among other elements, a public utilities integrated resource plan must include an evaluation of the full range of cost-effective means for the utility to meet the service requirements of its Montana customers, including conservation or similar improvements in the efficiency by which services are used, an annual electric demand and energy forecast, an assessment of planning, reserve margins, and contingency plans for acquiring new resources, an assessment of the need for additional resources in the utilities plan for acquiring resources, The proposed process the utility intends to use to solicit bids for energy and capacity resources, and descriptions of at least 2 alternative scenarios that can be used to represent the costs and benefits from increasing amounts of renewable energy resources in demand side management programs. The utility must fully explain, justify, and document the data and assumptions it used to develop its plan. If the utility's plan meets the minimum filing requirements established in statute and administrative rule, Montana law does not give the commission the authority to formally reject the utility's plan. Instead, the law requires the commission review the plan, publish a copy of the plan, allow for public comment on the plan, and provide at least 2 public meetings for the purpose of receiving comment on the plan. The commission may comment on the utilities plan and identify deficiencies in the plan. Comments from the commission may not be construed as approval of any proposed resource. Turning now to the present docket, on April 28th, 2023, Northwestern filed its 2023 plan with the commission. The 2023 plan evaluates different potential generation resources that could meet the needs of Northwestern's electric service customers in Montana over the next 20 years. According to the 2023 plan, the resources best suited to address Northwestern's needs are flexible natural gas generation and long duration energy storage resources. The plan does not identify specific new resources for addition to Northwestern's resource portfolio. Consistent with its statutory authority, the commission has contracted with an independent consultant to assist the commission in evaluating models used by Northwestern to develop its 2023 plan. The commission issued a notice of opportunity to comment on May 26, 2023, and a notice of listening sessions on July 21st, 2023. Although the law requires the commission to schedule 2 public meetings, the commission has decided to host 5 public meetings on Northwestern's 2023 plan. This is the final meeting. The commission previously held listening sessions on August 14th, 2023 in Great Falls, Montana, on August 15th, 2023 in Helena, Montana, on August 16th, 2023 in Billings, Montana, and on August 17th, 2023 in Butte, Montana. As stated in the commission's May 26, 2023 notice of opportunity to comment, and as noted by Chair Fielder, the deadline for public comment on the 2023 plan is August 28th, 2023. After today's listening session, the commission will continue to accept public comment in writing and by phone. To provide public comment, please call the commission at 1-800-646-6150. And again, that's 1-800-646-6150, or email the commission at pschelp@mt.gov. The commission and its staff will review all timely public comments when preparing its own comments on the 2023 plan. Madam Chair, that concludes the summary of this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Polko. We are going to begin the, well, first of all, we're here to listen to public comments. So as a result, this meeting won't have a Q&A portion to it. The commission and its staff will not be commenting today or even answering questions. We are here to listen to you. If certain technical questions arise about proceedings or anything like that, I may defer a question like that to our legal counsel. Please be mindful of your time if you do wish to speak tonight. There's a lot of folks here that may wish to speak also. Comments should be delivered respectfully in a civil manner. Please confine remarks to the specific topic of the listening session, which is this integrated resource plan. To begin the public comment session, we are going to have a representative from Northwestern Energy to provide some brief remarks, and then we will get a head count on those who wish to comment, and we'll try to allocate the time so that we can make sure everyone gets a chance. So Mr. Rare from Northwestern Energy, you're welcome to begin comment.
All right. My name is Todd Rare. I'm the Community Relations Manager for Northwestern Energy. And first and foremost, just want to thank PSC for allowing these hearings in all of our markets that we represent. This one being the last one, and got a great turnout here, and we're looking forward to listening to your comments and seeing what you have to say between now and the 28th. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rare. And I understand that commenters we'd like you to speak in the microphone so folks can hear, but it's not required, is that right? Okay, the record can pick you up if you're not comfortable speaking in the mic, that's okay, but just make sure you speak loud enough that we can hear you up here, please. Now, could I just get a show of hand on how many actually have remarks they'd like to make this evening? We get a quick count. So it looks like about 25 people or so right now. Quick math.
I think it's more than 25. Yeah, I think you should do an actual.
We'll go 30, just a rough estimate. So if you could try to contain your remarks to about 3 minutes or so, a little less than 3 minutes, some may be more brief. If somebody's already said something that that you wanted to say, it would be just fine to give your name and say, I agree with the prior speaker or speakers. And that way we don't have to take up time repeating the same points that were heard earlier. Please we would like you to speak into the microphone if you would please state and spell your name and state where you are from. We do not need your whole address, just the town that you live in, please. And if you're with an organization, please, if you're representing an organization, please identify the organization on whose behalf you are speaking, if that's applicable. Okay, and I understand we do not have any public commenters online, correct? Okay, so the time is allocated for those that are here in the room tonight. So we will go ahead and begin with any commenters. Are there any commenters in the room? If you would, please come up, and we can have a few in line if you want to wait, so we could move right from one to the next and try to make sure we get everybody in this evening. Thank you. Yes, just push that button and the green light will come on.
And we designed the table if you want to use it like a lectern to speak to the commission.
Yeah, you probably would like to address the commission, and
Sounds good.
let me just make a comment. Please do speak so that you're addressing the commission. The comments should always go through the chair of a proceeding, so it's just a small formality. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Craig McClure, and I'm from Polson. This integrated resource management plan that Northwestern Energy is proposing seems to be fighting global efforts to transition to clean, renewable energy. They own no solar and only 2% of wind electric generating assets. They have been in control for 10 years now, and they claim to need 27 more years to attain fossil-free electricity, even though they have fought every legislative session to prevent the development of green energy. Time is not on our side. Unfortunately, Montanans are on the hook. Northwest Energy is currently hoping to raise our electricity rates 28%, and that does not even include future costs for the $275 million Yellowstone generating plant in Laurel, or maintenance, upgrade, and reclamation costs at Colstrip. Montanans can't afford these Northwest Energy cash cow proposals. I'm 75 years old. It is not such a big deal for me, but it is for my 6-year-old grandson. Since we can't trust Northwest Energy to do the right thing, hopefully we can trust this PSC to be more visionary.
Fielder and fellow public service commissioners. My name is Caroline Beam. I live in Missoula, and I'm here on behalf of Missoula County. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. My comments this evening represent the main themes of a joint letter that Missoula County, the city of Missoula, and the city of Bozeman have submitted for your consideration. In 2019, Missoula County's Board of County Commissioners, Missoula City Council, and the Bozeman City Commission adopted a goal of 100% clean electricity by 2030 for our respective communities with broad public support. We have since been working diligently with Northwestern Energy to achieve our goal. Our finish line, however, moves depending on Northwestern's portfolio, and so we have a keen interest in this process. We recognize that we start in a strong position with carbon-free resources making up 59% of the portfolio, and we value the reliable power that Northwestern delivers to our communities 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. However, overwhelming evidence suggests that extreme weather events due to climate change pose an immense threat to electricity reliability. And these events will only worsen if we fail to innovate and rapidly transition away from fossil fuels. Unfortunately, this proposal results in a higher carbon intensity of energy than the national average, under the rationale of affordability and reliability. However, we believe this conclusion was reached without a full and meaningful analysis of renewable energy and storage alternatives. It is in this light that we encourage Northwestern to reconsider the following elements of the IRP. First, they only utilize Ascend Analytics Power Sim model, despite the availability of Battery Sim and Smart Bidder modeling environments, both of which are designed to find the maximum value of storage and renewable energy projects. This decision was not explained or justified. Why not ensure we have the best data and models for all options? Second, the models use outdated figures for operations and maintenance costs for renewable resources and storage. Just one example, they do not use NREL's most recent projected costs for 4-hour lithium-ion batteries, which are lower than the numbers cited in the report. Third, the IRP does not consider long-duration batteries, despite their recent deployment by peers, such as Xcel Energy and Georgia Power. And lastly, the demand-side management components of the IRP lag behind other utilities, which are deploying well-proven and cost-saving strategies, such as water heater rebate programs. This is an exciting time to invest in those types of strategies, given the potential to leverage federal investment through the Inflation Reduction Act, but it's unfortunately missing here. We recognize that transitioning to low carbon energy sources is as complex as it is necessary, and we remain committed as 3 governments to innovating and collaborating so that we can achieve that transition. Thank you for your consideration of our input.
Madam Chairman and members of the commission, my name is Harold Hoem, H-O-E-M. I live here in Missoula. Reluctance is the blood brother of denial. Reluctance to wean our utilities off fossil fuels by waiting till 2035 and quit adding more carbon-based fuels to the portfolio to somehow magically achieve net zero by 2050. Failing to plan responsibly is planning to fail irresponsibly. Despite the claims to be aware of climate change and its adverse effects, the actions of Northwest Energy are more in tune with those who would deny the risks and impacts of climate change that we're all seeing, from Greece to Canada to California to Washington State to right here in Montana. Coal-fired power plant is nothing but an albatross to be chucked as soon as possible. The Lowe gas plant is on its way to being antiquated before it's even born. 16 of Montana's young people in the Hill versus Montana case showed more good sense in defining Northwestern Energy's IRP. Thank you.
Honorable Commissioners, my name is Dolores Anderson and I live in Missoula, Montana. And I would appreciate it if you would put me under oath. That is, swear me in so my testimony can be recognized under the Montana Rule of Evidence and the Montana Administrative Procedure Act. Likewise, I request that you administer the oath to all of the public witnesses here at once who wish to be under that oath. So that you can recognize our testimony just as utility witnesses and intervener witnesses who are administered the oath. This testimony under oath is part of the record. Everyone's testimony deserves to be considered and contested in other cases on an equal basis. I cannot afford to intervene in this proceeding. The unconstitutional prerequisite of my comments being part of a record that you can by law consider and I do not have the time to participate in Helena as an intervener. In addition, I am not comfortable being represented by the Consumer Council, who since the last legislature is beholding to legislative members of the majority party, rather than an equal number of legislators from both parties. I, Dolores Anderson, do solemnly swear that the testimony I am about to give in this PSC public hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. To start, please take administrative notice of findings of fact 44 through 50 and 269 through 278 in Held v. Montana. The Montana First Judicial District Court, Lewis and Clark County, ordered filed August 14, 2023, page 15 through 81 and through 81 through 84. In accordance with the findings, finding 44, the PSC was a defendant. Specifically, findings of fact in 276 reads, wind, water, and solar are the cheapest and most efficient form of energy. Cost per unit of energy is in 100% wind, water, and sunlight systems in Montana would be about 15% lower than business as usual. Even when including increased costs for energy storage. New wind and solar are the lowest cost new forms of electricity power in the United States, on the order of about half the cost of natural gas and even cheaper compared to coal. In Held case finding 269, Judge Seeley found that Dr. Mark Jacobson, the witness, presented the unrebutted testimony under oath, so it can be considered here. Adopted as fact in the finding 268 through 283 is a well-qualified expert, and his testimony was informative and credible. The reference to Mr. Jacobs or Dr. Jacobs is where his comments are found in the Helby case transcript of exhibit record, paragraph 275, also found converting from fossil fuel energy to renewable energy would eliminate another $21 billion in climate costs by 2050 to Montana and the world, most noticeably to those in Montana converting to wind, water, and solar. Energy would reduce annual total energy costs for Montanans by from $9.1 billion to $2.8 billion per year, and which is by $6.3 billion per year. The total energy, health, plus climate cost savings, therefore, will become combined $29 billion per year. Northwestern admits renewable power is cheaper than fossil fuel generation on its resource plan website. By answering its frequently asked questions, are wind and solar generation the least expensive energy production resource? However, contends, without its assertion being sworn or under oath, that because wind and solar generation is intermittent, Northwestern will still need to get power from natural gas and coal to keep the lights on in the winter weather, and that to do that, wind and solar generation products paired with battery storage would mean projects that cost hundreds of millions of dollars more. Northwestern's assertion is contrary to facts established under oath and subject to cross-examination as set forth in finding 275 in the Held case. This is the total energy, health, plus estimated cost savings of converting to renewables by 2050, therefore will be a combined $29 billion per year. Thus, finding 275 and 276 verify the assertion I and others made in co-signing a guest column written with our input by former PSC attorney Russ Doty and printed in the Montana Standard and the Laurel Outlook. And it's attached at the back of the papers I gave you. Newspapers and the Daily Montanan published that gas-fired electric plants are less competitive now than before the August 2022 Federal Inflation Reduction Act. And when taken additional advantage of the IRA bonus provisions, the Rocky Mountain Institute also concluded clean renewable sources will be cheaper than 99% of proposed gas plants. That our complete column is attached. It is important to include the IRA bonus provisions evaluated by the Rocky Mountain Institute because Northwestern's analysis ignores them. Northwestern only includes the IRA 30% provision when addressing the IRA on its resource plan website. However, Northwestern's 30% analysis short sheets the IRA, so it must be disregarded as incomplete and therefore irrelevant. As one can see from the graphic, and that's the little piece of cake graphic that's here, the IRA can cover up to 70% of the cost of installing renewables. So if
Northwest Anderson, I'm sorry, I can see that you're reading from the comment you've submitted and we've already exceeded 3 minutes. So would you mind just submitting these? And
first of all, you gave us no information about how to prepare for this. You did not tell us that it would be a 2-hour meeting.
Ma'am, it's a 2-hour meeting and your 3 minutes are up. Please take a seat. Thank you. We have your comments. They will be.
You are violating my rights.
We just want to make sure everyone has an opportunity.
So then extend the time of the meeting.
I'm sorry, we can't do that.
Yes, you can.
Let her finish.
You're welcome to come back.
So.
If we do not maintain order, this meeting will be adjourned. What we're trying to do is allow everyone to have an opportunity. She has 10 pages here, which is going to take up a substantial amount of time.
That's not true.
We agreed on 3 minutes.
One page I'm not even going to read and the other last 2 pages.
Okay,
So
so
it's
if you
not.
would please wrap up your comments, then you have exceeded the amount of time that we've allocated. for
Yeah,
everybody.
at the last minute, and which you took a good part of before you even gave us a chance.
Exactly.
However, Northwestern's 30% analysis short sheets it. So in Montana, 32 census districts and 11 counties are eligible for an additional 10%. And I have the counties named here and I won't read those. But they can add to this so that in the end, if you buy the products here in the United States, if you follow what has been put into practice here, the map that you can see on this page 4 shows which counties in Montana could get even extra from the IRA. None of this did Northwest Energy happen to mention. The third Northwestern analysis should have consulted the area map here and allowing the additional IRA 10 to 20% bonus for disadvantaged communities all over Montana. How about Northwestern using the IRA to help our Missoula area disadvantaged to meet city and county zero carbon goals or helping those in Anaconda? An additional rebuttal to Northwestern's assertion concerning the cost of battery renewables, please take administrative notice of Lazar 2023 analysis of those costs as shown in the 2 graphs on this page, which I will not read, but which you have. Lazar is a well-accepted commercial publication that is the gold standard of determining electricity production costs and therefore can be considered by the Public Service Commission under the market reports, and similar commercial productions exception could be the exception to the hearsay rule. Note that utility scale PV plus storage, including the domestic content bonus, starts at $31 per megawatt and goes to $88 per megawatt. For onshore wind plus storage, including the domestic content bonus, it ranges from 12 megawatts to 103 megawatts. That compares to Lazard's unsubsidized gas combined cycle adjusted for fuel prices, which is 33 megawatts per hour up to 108, shown in the second graph. So if they are adopted, the IRA subsidies paid for by taxing only those that make over 400,000 could help a lot in reducing the price of electricity for most Montanans in Northwestern Energy's market. Also, Northwestern claims that natural gas will be less intermittent or cheaper than solar and wind, and that is not correct. For more than 5 years, there is articles that have shown that under the pressure of the weather, it's such in Texas, the gas lines froze and the price gouging afterwards was extreme. So natural gas is not always cheaper during the winter when Northwestern wants to use it, as illustrated by the National Public Radio story I posted on the I-187 Facebook page before. Please take administrative notice of the current law in Montana, namely conclusions of law 16, 50, and 65 in the held case, which states Montana's greenhouse gas contributions are not minimal, but are nationally and globally significant. Montana's, and number 50, Montana's climate, environment, and natural resources are unconstitutionally degraded and depleted due to the current atmospheric concentration of greenhouse gases and climate change. Undisputed testimony established that clean renewable energy is technically feasible and economically beneficial in Montana. Finally, so you can consider my testimony as you would comments from utility witnesses, I am able to be cross-examined. Failure to allow me to be sworn and cross-examined will deny my equal protection rights afforded by the Montana and US Constitution, and by denying my right to advocate for a clean and healthful environment as provided in healthy Montana. I stand for questions.
Thank you for your comments and thank you for the effort you put into this. Now let's just bring this down. We've got several people who would like to speak tonight, and if everyone gets to speak for as long as they feel like, then some people are going to be left out. So I'm going to ask those that are wishing to comment tonight, will you agree to a time limit so everyone has a chance, or do you want to just let the people in front of you speak as long as they can? We do have to wrap up at 8 o'clock.
You have a 2-hour limit.
We have the room.
Is that by law or is that policy?
We have each of the hearings or the listening sessions have been scheduled for 2 hours, and we reserve the room for the 2-hour period.
So you can't extend it?
And we
Is the government gonna be here after?
I'm sorry, we have several people here that have driven a long way and have a long way to go yet tonight. And we reserve the room for 2 hours. So it will be a 2-hour hearing. We will conclude at 8 p.m. this evening. So my question is, would you like to allow people to just speak as long as they wish while they're at the lectern, or would you like to allocate the time amongst the people who wish to speak?
Let them speak. Time limit.
As long as they wish. As long as they want.
Time limit.
Okay, all those in favor for dividing the time somewhat equally, asking for about a 3-minute limit, please raise your hand. Okay, and all those opposed, please raise your hand. Okay, It's clearly support for about a 3-minute limit, so if you just be respectful. There's also plenty of other opportunities for comments. This isn't the last chance to comment on this. We have plenty of ways for you to comment, so thank you. We'll proceed, and please, I just ask you to, out of courtesy for the others, to try to keep your comments to about 3 minutes. If you have written comments, we will read them. You can turn them into us, and I assure you, we will read them. Thank you.
No, Commissioner Fielder, thank you for being here and thank you for your patience. My name is Gary Matson, Matson. I live in Milltown, Montana. And I'm a 54-year customer of Montana Power and Northwestern Energy. And although I am grateful for the electricity the utility provides, I strongly object to its energy resource planning. I will summarize my comment this evening and have submitted a more detailed one to the commission. Science provides a method for decision making that involves the evaluation of evidence, leading to the best definition of truth. Perhaps the greatest tragedy of our time is the politicizing of the science-based truth about the cause of climate change. Republican Party leadership has chosen to ignore the evidence that greenhouse gas emissions from fossil fuels are driving the ongoing degradation of our climate. Because of its supermajority in our legislature, the party has succeeded in promoting state laws that favor the expanded use of coal and methane. Clean energy advocates have been losing in their efforts to substitute lower cost, clean, renewable energy for fossil fuel. Northwestern Energy's laudable goal is to provide electricity that is reliable and affordable. However, the utility absolutely fails to achieve the affordability goal, totally ignoring and externalizing the social costs of degrading the climate. Montana shares one atmosphere with the rest of the world and shares in climate change costs. Studies both nationally and internationally have defined a social cost of carbon based upon costs of the increasingly frequent and severe weather events of climate change. Storms, floods, droughts, excessive heat, warm and dewatered rivers, wildfires. Cost estimates vary from $50 per ton of emitted carbon dioxide to $190 a ton. The Public Service Commission should require Northwestern to include, along with its monthly promotional material, the month's social cost of its carbon emissions. Although even at its lowest estimated amount, the cost is far greater than Montana ratepayers could afford. We are still entitled to know the true total cost of our electricity. All of us, including the Montana Public Service Commission, Montana State Government, and Northwestern Energy, are responsible for doing our best to leave future generations with a quality of life at least as good as the one we've enjoyed. The truth is that Northwestern plans for increasing fossil fuel electricity generation will increase climate degradation and lower the quality of life for Montana. Our responsibility is to work together, shift electricity generation from dirty fossil fuels to clean, lower cost renewable energy, and leave an environmental legacy we can all be proud of.
Commissioners Fielder and Jack. Thank you for being here today. I'm concerned that Northwestern Energy's IRP proposes an antiquated approach.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Would
Yes.
you please state your name and spell it for
I'm
the record? That's all right. Thank you.
Jan Hoen, Hoen, from Missoula.
Thank you.
I'll start again.
Okay.
I am concerned that Northwestern Energy's IRP proposes an antiquated approach to energy production. Tom Looney wrote, quote, Northwestern Energy is doubling the coal power in its portfolio, becoming the only utility in the nation to expand the use of coal generation as the power becomes less economical, unquote. So what are the 49 other states doing in their utilities? And have we examined other options I don't see it in the IRP. We can't afford to wait a dozen years before Northwestern Energy begins to turn away from fossil fuels. I believe Northwestern Energy will be forced to switch to renewables, plus storage, demand response billing, and other clean energy policies and billing. Those technologies sooner than they think. The tragedies and devastation caused by heedless energy policies will demand it. The longer they delay, the more costly the switch will become to the company and to the customers. Please tell Northwestern Energy to get their heads out of the sand and do the right thing. Thank you for coming.
Good evening. My name is Winona Rachel, Rachel, and I live in Missoula. I'm here today to urge the PSC to send Northwestern's IRP back to the drawing board. Their plan is a justification for business as usual. They plan to acquire a larger share of coal strip and build new methane generation, which will generate more profits for them, but lead to higher prices for ratepayers, as we've already seen, for folks that are burdened with increasing energy costs on top of the increased cost of living, increased cost of housing. In addition, their plan does not outline a meaningful and just consideration of renewables and storage, which have been proven to be cheaper and stand to provide immense economic benefits and job opportunities for many communities in Montana. Finally, Northwestern refuses to provide transparency as to the inputs of their power sims modeling used in the IRP, and this is crucial information that the public and the PSC need to be able to access to assess the viability of the IRP. It's the policy of the state of Montana to encourage utilities to acquire resources that will help ensure a clean, safe, and healthful environment. So I urge the PSC to uphold this policy and send the IRP back to the drawing board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Members of the commission, my name is Joe Lowe. Last name is Loos. Thank you for this hearing and opportunity to speak to our concerns about Northwest Energy's 2023 proposed integrated resource plan.
Mr. Lowe, sorry to interrupt, but can you give us your town of residence?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm officially a Missoula resident by the post office, but I actually live out by Milton.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. I especially want to emphasize that Northwest Energy's IRP significantly ignores the externalization of costs by its failure to include the costs to the environment and therefore to all of us. Especially as the impacts of burning fossil fuels feed an increasingly destabilized climate. For example, my wife and I live in a manufactured home court near Milltown, where we and all our neighbors could well face being driven out of our home by wildfire. That won't be a cost to Northwest Energy, but it should be if they are permitted to impose this plan that continues recklessly increase greenhouse gas emissions. I urge you to send Northwest Energy back to do their due diligence and come up with a plan that helps us all reduce our energy demands through conservation incentives and make a goal to shift to net zero carbon emission energy sources by 2030. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Fielder, Bukatek. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm Monica Tranelle, Tranel. I live here in Missoula. I'm here in my own capacity as a captive ratepayer of our monopoly utility. It is an investor-owned utility. Its fiduciary duty is to serve its shareholders. And that's what this IRP is designed to do, to serve the short-term profits of its shareholders. As you noted when you read the introduction, the planning process is designed to ensure that we are serving the ratepayers of Montana. And that's the commission's job, to make that balance happen. So I would ask that the commission ensure that it has all of the data that it needs to make a full and fair assessment of this resource plan, and to fully fund the intervenor process as necessary, and to require full modeling as necessary to get the accurate data that you need to make a good decision. I will point out a few specific comments about the plan. So the worksheet, the capacity cost and footprint compare that was done on February 14th, it is blatantly disingenuous, showing a capacity footprint for solar and wind that doesn't even show a serious effort to tell the commission what a resource plan would actually look like. Capacity for solar and wind is going to use batteries, which is a small footprint. So in that alone, the commission can't really even take the effort of the utility seriously. I would ask the commission to look at the load duration table, 6.4 by Northwestern's own evidence in table 6-4. It's saying that the duration need it would have would be a 9-hour outage above 1100 megawatts. And so why is it building 150 megawatt natural gas plant or acquiring more of Colstrip to serve that very short-term duration, which could be served by batteries? And I think that the commission should also be paying attention to this in the context of the fact that it removes the ring fencing protections for bankruptcy, and that Northwestern has just spun off the Montana utility to be a standalone utility at a time that it's acquiring a Visa share of Colstrip and a gas plant in 2023, leaving all of us to pick up the tab when those resources are no longer useful. That is not good utility planning, and the commission would be wise to pay careful attention to what's happening and the similarities to the 1990s. We do not want to relive that experience. I would ask the commission to look at table 8.2. The solar costs that are identified in there are very high compared to the costs that Northwestern has advocated in other proceedings before the commission. And there is no consideration of the resources that are available under the IRA, which the commission should not accept. On the electric vehicle section in section 9, that is essentially the utility giving the back of its hand to something that is happening. The energy transition is happening. It is underway. EV stations are getting built across the state. One's in Sealy Lake right now. And we need to be paying attention to this and to realize that we, as the captive customers of this utility, this is a bilateral relationship going forward. We are not simply load. We are also supply and can be going forward. And the utility needs to plan for that. In 2023, it is not prudent to not take that into serious consideration. At rooftop solar, figure 3.4, why is Northwestern proposing that Idaho will have more rooftop solar than Montana's? The utilization of resources. Montana has wind energy resources that are the best, some of the best in the world, certainly as good as the Great Plains, and Northwestern is limiting us that we won't even crack the top 25 in terms of wind power capacity. And then if you look at the energy website, energy.gov website, you will see that where wind power is developed, manufacturing jobs follow. It's simply not good for our economy to ignore our incredible energy resources right now. So energy is across the Northwest. Utilities much bigger than Northwestern. Northwestern serves about 400,000 customers. It has a $3 billion market cap. It's a very small utility. It's much smaller than the other utilities across the Pacific Northwest, who are serving larger loads using cheaper and cheaper resources. Why aren't we doing the same? Why is Montana being ring fenced, saddled with coal and gas, And looking forward, that looks like maybe a good deal for BlackRock, the largest owner of Northwestern, not a good deal for us. Please use your full authority to demand a robust planning process, which is what this statute was designed to do. And make sure that you have the data in front of you to make a good decision. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a wonderful speech, but please, let's refrain from applause and also cheering tonight. Just let people say their piece. Thank you.
Chairman Fielder, I am Sue Malik, M-A-L-E-K, from Missoula. And thank you for being here tonight. We really appreciate that you're holding extra hearings. Thank you for that. There's so much wrong with the way Montana legally thinks about energy development. And part of that is even Idaho, right? It's a very public process. Corporations, small groups, nonprofits participate, and everybody knows what's going on. In Montana, when resources are going to be developed, that's a very closed system that none of us know about until after it happens. So there's a lot wrong. And in the past, Colstrip, we bought for over $400 million, and the cost to the company was about $187 million. The dams we paid $200 million for, and the cost to the company was about $100 million. So we have already given Northwestern a lot of money. I asked a CEO of Northwestern a few years ago, why can't we put surcharges on excess energy usage like the rural electrics do? And he said, as long as this is a private enterprise, our goal is to make money, and the way we make money is selling more energy. And the way they make money is developing costly energy. I know at least 3 commissioners are from rural electrics, and I've been jealous of rural electrics for a long time. Because in Kalispell, right, they're capturing methane out of the garbage disposal and generating energy. They have solar in the Flathead, they have community solar in the Ravalli County, and we are denied the ability to do that. We cannot have community solar because Northwest Energy decides what we can and cannot do. So this whole process, I understand that your job is very complicated and difficult, and I think that you are all working very hard. After the last election, the website looks better. I can actually use it a little bit. It wasn't possible before. But I have to say that the Northwest Conservation Council said that all of the extra demand can be met with renewables. And Northwestern Energy is saying, everybody else is developing renewables and we want to be the balancing authority. We want to make a lot of money when they can't produce their energy. We're going to make a lot of money selling our fossil fuels to them. And in the meantime, Sanders County is burning, and I'm so sorry about that. My husband and I traveled from Havre to Great Falls this last week. The wind was blowing 50 miles an hour. We had to slow down to 40 and put on our emergency blinkers because you couldn't see because of the dust blowing. So when people talk about climate change, this is something we're already experiencing. There was an article in the paper last week about wildlife dying because of mercury poisoning. So the plan needs to be reviewed, redone, and we need to look at what Montana needs and not what Northwestern Energy needs to make huge profits by selling out of state.
Thank you, Senator. Nice to see you again, too.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity. I am Winona Bateman. My first name is W-I-N-O-N-A. Bateman is B-A-T-E-M-A-N, and I reside in Missoula. I'm also the Executive Director of Families for a Livable Climate, and I appreciate this opportunity to comment on Northwestern Energy's latest integrated resource plan. I'm here you know, I have my speech, my comments written. And I was thinking as I was listening to everyone, like, why am I here? Like at the core, like I run an organization, but like I'm here because I'm a mom. And I'm here because I need you. And all of Montana needs you right now. I'm here because I'm worried about my child's future. I'm worried about the future, hopefully one day, of my grandchildren. And I'm here because I care deeply and I believe in the process of democracy and participation. So thank you. But more than anything, right now, Montana families need an energy plan that they can afford. We need a plan that recognizes that we are 5th in the nation for wind potential, and we are rich in solar potential as well. We need a plan that takes advantage of the massive opportunities available right now to bring clean energy jobs to our communities. We need a plan that prioritizes the people of Montana and their right to a clean and healthful environment, a constitutional right that you are obligated to uphold. We need an innovative plan that promises and can actually deliver a bright future for us all, because it has good bones and is grounded in transparent facts. What I'm describing is absolutely possible, and you've heard it from people way smarter than me about the nitty-gritty pieces of this plan. But unfortunately, this plan is not what I'm describing. Instead, Northwestern Energy's leadership is again standing in the way of an affordable energy future. We can't afford this plan. We simply cannot afford it. We can't afford to be saddled with the outdated, expensive, polluting technologies that are prioritized in this plan. We can't afford to miss the boat on millions of federal dollars that would support counties around the state to transition to clean energy jobs. We can't afford a 28% rate hike, and I know that's a different docket, and I'll show up for that one, but it is a related conversation. And our children and our grandchildren can't afford a more polluted future. This plan will contribute to making all of our families' futures more unpredictable, unsafe, and much more unaffordable. We need you to send Northwestern Energy back to the drawing board. They can do better, and you have the power to tell them and go and do better for all of us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is David Merrill. I'm a senior organizer with the Sierra Club. My last name is spelled Merrill, and I live in Missoula. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the Montana chapter of the Sierra Club and our thousands of members across the state. We do not believe that Northwestern Energy's integrated resource plan fulfills our need for clean, affordable, and reliable electricity. In fact, it doubles down on fossil fuels, including increasing its coal burning, the most expensive energy in Northwestern Energy's portfolio. And as mentioned before, they're the only utility in the entire country that is adding coal burning capacity. Furthermore, this plan does not evaluate the greenhouse gas emissions of the Lowe gas plant and increased coal burning, which, in light of a recent court decision, is looking increasingly dubious. It speaks volumes that the state government, including the Montana Public Service Commission, will only consider greenhouse gas emissions if forced by Montana youth to do so through the courts. I hope the Montana Public Service Commission and Northwestern Energy aren't operating under the erroneous assumption that because the sun doesn't shine all the time and the wind doesn't blow all the time, we can't have a 100% renewable electricity system. That's a little bit like saying Montanans can't talk to somebody in Kansas because it's too far away. The vertical communication distance between Montana and Kansas was overcome by the telephone. And the renewable energy variability barrier has been overcome by clean energy portfolios composed of sun, wind, batteries, energy efficiency, demand flexibility, according to the Rocky Mountain Institute, as mentioned earlier. Clean energy portfolios can cost competitively provide the same electricity with the same reliability, I repeat, same reliability as gas plants. This plant does not fairly value renewable energy. Sacramento Utility District in California, Green Mountain Power in Vermont, and the Platte River Power Authority in Colorado are all moving publicly and confidently for providing 100% renewable electricity to their customers by 2030. Why should they have all the fun? Let's require Northwestern Energy to do the same. I'm sorry to say that there's a major trust issue between Montana citizens and the Montana Public Service Commission. How many people in this room trust the Montana PSC to do the right thing when evaluating this plan? Hands, please. It's unanimous. It's a shame that the PSC and Northwestern Energy are not working with Montanans to conduct a transparent and fair evaluation of the energy options we have. But there is a major step you can take right now to build an essential trust. Require that Northwestern Energy release all of the assumptions and inputs they employ in their energy model when preparing this integrated resource plan. This would allow the public and public interest groups like the Sierra Club to fully evaluate their calculations and conclusions. The fact that Northwestern Energy has refused to do this in the past increases our suspicion that the release of that information would reveal that the model was rigged to choose more fossil fuels. That is so 20th century. Sometimes an intolerable situation can be terminated with a courageous decision. This is surely one of those situations. Don't those carbon kings at Northwestern Energy and join us in the 21st century. Thank you.
I have to admit, those were the most entertaining remarks I think I've heard. Thank you.
Evening, Commissioners, thank you.
Oh, can you turn the mic on? Push that little button, right?
Is it on now?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners, for being here for this opportunity to present. My name is Patricia Ames, AMES, and I currently live in Missoula.
Can you please spell your last name?
AMES.
Okay, thank you.
Hold the mic closer.
I'm here because my Northwestern Energy bills last winter were double what they had been the year before, for roughly the same amount of gas and electricity used. The gas was substantially higher because the cost of natural gas had gone up substantially, and Northwestern Energy actually told us that in our bill. And that cost is passed on to us ratepayers. Also, the electricity was considerably higher because you, the Public Service Commission, authorized a partial rate hike that Northwestern Energy asked for. Altogether, they're asking for a 28% rate hike, which I pray you will not agree to. It is unconscionable that you agreed to the agreement Northwestern Energy accepted from the large users not have a rate hike. Now, the richest family on earth, the Walton family of Walmart fame and other wealthy businesses, will not pay a rate increase. As usual, the increase will now fall on the backs of us, the poor individual ratepayers. When Northwestern Energy became our monopoly power company, the Public Service Commission was created to make certain that we, the ratepayers, would receive affordable and reliable power. Instead, you are consistently helping to line the pockets of Northwestern Energy's executives and shareholders. Northwestern Energy's IRP is supposed to provide transparency to us, the ratepayers, as to how they will provide affordable and reliable energy for us for the next 20 years or so. First of all, there is no transparency. In their IRP, they consistently hide behind their so-called proprietary model so that no one can verify their findings, which always happen to support lining Northwestern Energy's pockets with our money. It is so obvious that their model is rigged by them, since there are now many models that show just the opposite of their model. We now have many models that show renewables are far less expensive than gas-fired plants and old coal plants, which will become stranded assets that we, the ratepayers, will be on the hook for. During the recent Health versus Montana suit, Stanford professor Dr. Mark Jacobson testified as an expert witness that it is currently economically feasible and technologically available to employ renewables across all sectors, including electricity, transportation, heating, cooling, and industry. There is already a roadmap for Montana to reach 100% renewable portfolio by 2050, which in addition to climate benefits will create jobs, reduce air pollution, and save lives. He further explained that Montana could economically and
technologically replace 80% of our fossil fuel energy by 2030. That's only 7 years away. And 100% as early as 2035, just 12 years from now. He adds that switching to renewables now would reduce Montana's total energy costs from the current $9.1 billion a year to $2.8 billion a year. That would result in a $6 billion a year savings to us, the ratepayers. I wholly encourage you to read Judge Seeley's full opinion, in which she references a number of expert witnesses that pretty much tell the real story of what is possible in our state now, not 30 years from now. We, the ratepayers of Montana, read, we're intelligent, we know what's going on, and we vote. It's my honest opinion that if this IRP is approved and you allow them to continue to hide behind their false and inaccurate modeling, that maybe the Public Service Commission will be open to being sued by us, the ratepayers, for failing to do your legal duty. In conclusion, do not accept Northwestern Energy's IRP. They must go back to the drawing board and produce an honest IRP based on accurate, transparent modeling, current science and facts. They must provide us ratepayers with affordable and reliable energy, as well as a clean and healthful environment for all of us to live in.
Thank you. Just a reminder, let's try to keep it within 3 minutes. And if we do that, I think everyone who's standing up will be able to say their piece. Thank you.
Evening, Commissioners. My name is Izzy Milch. It's IZZYMILCH. I live in Missoula and I'm here on behalf of Forward Montana, which is the largest youth-led civic engagement organization in the state. Northwestern Energy has brought forward a plan that is stuck in the past and that places profit over ensuring a habitable future for this state. As companies across the U.S. transition away from coal-fired power, as you heard, Northwestern Energy seems to be the only utility in the nation adding more coal to their portfolio. This plan also relies on the construction and operation of a new methane plant in Laurel. The legal decision to allow Northwestern to move forward with construction of this plant rested on the law passed this year prohibiting the consideration of climate impacts, including greenhouse gas emissions, during permitting processes. And as you've all heard already tonight, this provision was struck down in court just last week because a coalition of young Montanans refused to let the state trample on our constitutional rights to a clean and healthful environment. And I'm wondering if Northwestern Energy has considered what that ruling means for this plan moving forward. This IRP violates our constitutional rights, and our generation has shown that we won't stand by and let ourselves be robbed of a livable future in this state. Renewable energy is less expensive and more reliable than Northwestern Energy makes it out to be, especially with the Inflation Reduction Act and other federal funding opportunities that this plan ignores. Instead of investing in long-term sustainability, Northwestern Energy is directly contributing to both the climate crisis and the cost of living increases that are already driving Montanans out of our homes. This commission is tasked with representing consumers, and I think the consumers have made ourselves pretty clear. We ask that Northwestern Energy reconsider this plan that attempts to pass off the cost of bad investments to Montanans who are already struggling to make ends meet. Thanks for your time and your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you for being here and for taking these comments. We really appreciate it. My name is Amy Silverberg. It's CILIMBURG. I live in Missoula and I'm the executive director at a local nonprofit, Climate Smart Missoula. So our mission is to build and accelerate climate solutions for Missoula and beyond. I have a few thoughts I'll share tonight. We also will submit more substantive comments. For the past 8 years, we've been working to help our community plan for and transition to a future that leaves the vast majority of fossil fuels in the ground and instead is increasingly powered by clean renewable energy that is affordable, reliable, and protects our health. And it's what our community wants to see tonight. Our organization spearheaded Missoula's Clean Electricity Options Report, which provided the foundation for the 100% clean electricity goal passed by the city of Missoula and Missoula County in 2019 that Caroline Bean mentioned earlier. We've supported partnerships between Northwestern Energy and local government to help us achieve this really necessary goal. We recognize that Northwestern's current generation portfolio is almost 60% carbon-free. It's not a bad place to start. The state is blessed with hydroelectric, wind, and solar resources. And there is no question that this is the time to lean in hard for more renewables, batteries, demand-side management, and to find innovative ways to make that transition to reliable and affordable clean energy. Northwestern Energy can do this. An IRP that results in higher carbon intensity of energy than the national average is, however, unacceptable, especially when so many have shown that we can do this. Mark Jacobson has been referenced. There's been many studies that renewables, batteries, transmission build-out can meet our energy needs in the short and long term. So just a couple points not sufficiently addressed in this IRP. Carbon prices or prohibitions in Washington, Oregon, and California will take effect between now and 2030, making gas and coal less valuable to the market, making wind, hydro, and solar more valuable. We live in a regional market, and it's clear in this IRP that we're really not considering the entire regional market, and we need to adequately factor that in. It's also clear that the IRP does not consider demand-side management as the resource that it is, especially relative to what other utilities are doing. We can save a lot of energy, and that will reduce peak demand and the need for resource capacity. I read this IRP, and it is clear that the Northwestern is failing to plan for the innovations coming online today and tomorrow. This IRP feels out of touch with utility plans and practices across the country. It's time to plan for the future that we, our children, and our natural systems need. It's the youth trial, Judge Seeley, and also the Inflation Reduction Act have both been offered to be unprecedented and far-reaching, both the decisions and the federal funds that are available. And we need to acknowledge both of those. We can actually do this. We have federal funds that can help support this, and the IRP just does not simply take that into consideration. So we respectfully ask the PSC to request a transparent, robust, and improved IRP using the modeling and data necessary so our utilities can meet this moment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Michael Hudson, HUDSON, Missoula County. I'm here because I'm a dad. I know that some members of the PSC, I assume not you, to disregard outright comments from this community. But I know that the people in this room have much in common with the rest of Northwestern's ratepayers. We're Montanans, we care about each other, we know what's good for us, and we are all sick of watching our rates go up. The Northwestern executives make thousands of dollars each every day. We are not fools. We see what is happening. And what you are hearing here today is no different from what you have heard all over the state. The PSC has overseen the rise of rates for years, and now we pay some of the very highest rates in the Pacific and Mountain West, Northwest. I know the two of you are new to the commission. I hope you can provide some new leadership and stand with Montanans. I've read the RP. My God, I'm a mental health counselor. I don't know anything, I'm new to this energy stuff. It's not a fun read. I feel sorry for those if you have to read it more than once. But even I could tell that it was full of examples of blatant bad bias. And I've got a list here. I'm not going to go through all of them. But one of the ones that stood out was how grossly they overstate the cost of solar, wind, and battery storage. The cost of renewable energy projects outlined in the IRP are 40 to 60% higher than the cost published by the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. Additionally, their cost modeling of renewable power when they factor in the IRA credits and Appendix H of Volume 2 somehow fails to consider also the production tax credits, even though on page 63 of Volume 1, they write about how much the PTC could save us all. By using bogus prices and overlooking the PTC, Northwestern grossly overstates the cost of solar and wind. Not only that, they fail to factor in, as mentioned before, the additional 20% of potential IRA credits for building a community where fossil fuel industries already existed and where they need certain income benefits. Throughout the IRP, they ignore how well wind and solar pair. Wind is stronger in lower pressure weather systems and sun is stronger in high pressure weather. And a variety of different storage solutions can fill the gaps. Utilities are making it work all over the country. So why can't we? Why do they claim in some places that wind only has 1/6 of the capacity in the wintertime that they do on other pages 88, pages 69 of volume 1? When they modeled, the ones that frustrated me the most was when they modeled the closure of the coal strip plants in 2025, they absurdly suggest replacing coal strips capacity with only 100 megawatts of wind and a bunch of storage. Nothing about solar. Since the wind doesn't blow all the time, they had to way overbuild on storage. That combined with inflated costs I mentioned above, led them to falsely overstate the closing of the coal strip in 2025. So why? Why would Northwestern mislead us like this? Most businesses in a free market would want to lower their costs, but Northwestern is clearly trying to raise them. I believe it is because this monopoly's rates are based on a cost plus percent basis, in which they make more money when their plants, the new plants, cost more to build. And we don't have a choice about who pays for it. And you know this. I know you know this. We want affordable and reliable power, and we know that is exactly what renewable energy is. Montana workers are ready. From page 72 of volume 1 of the IRP, it's outlined there are enough projects awaiting your approval right now to supplant the need for the Yellowstone methane plant and coal strip. In 2019, over at the public library, the PSC largely ignored public comment on the IRP. And here we are looking down the barrel of yet another rate increase. Are you going to stand with us or with the execs at Northwestern? Thank you.
Thank you.
Evening. Thank you, Commissioners, for being here. My name is Alicia Goheen, Gohen. I'm a resident of Missoula. I come here today as a Northwestern Energy ratepayer, as many of us all are, a single parent of 2 girls, and a lifelong Montanan with dire concerns about the financial and environmental impact of this short-sighted, profit-driven IRP. My 2 young daughters, 11 and 13, volunteered this evening to make themselves dinner and fold the laundry so I could be here this evening because they want someone to speak up for their future. They're scared. Kids see the news. Kids hear in middle school what's happening to the world they live in. And more desperately than anything, they want us adults to stand up, be brave, and do the right thing for them, for all the kids across the world. We have that responsibility. They are counting on us. And that is why I'm here this evening, for my children, for all our children. And I hope that's why you're all here too. So Northwestern Energy, according to your own website, which I think is readable and nice, I enjoyed it, the psc.gov, the commission acknowledges that in your own words, Montana utilities are, quote, monopolies with captive set of customers. We all agree on this fact, right? And that the PSC's, quote, job is to balance the interests of ratepayers and ensure services are both affordable and sustainable for the long term. And I think what we're all speaking about tonight is that sustainable for the long term is incredibly important, as is affordability. I'm not going to go into all the, the insightful facts that everyone else shared here tonight. But it's clear that this plan is deficient in those areas in very substantial ways. And like so many who have already spoken here tonight, I'm struggling to pay my rising electric bills on my monthly budget. And I'm scared for my children's future.
I'm scared what will happen to them with wildfire smoke, unpredictable storms, unreliable conditions for growing food, and degradation of this beautiful ecosystem that we in Montana all hold dear. I urge you to take seriously your stated commitment to provide a counterbalance to Northwestern Energy's monopoly power and ensure that they go back and bravely create a plan that actually looks to make affordable and sustainable energy possible for us for this long-term future that we all so desperately want to have and want to pass on to our children and our grandchildren, to be honest. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. My name is Beth Taylor Wilson, TAYLOR-WILSON. I reside in Missoula County. And I was reading a newsletter from Bill McKibben, one of the founders of 350 Montana, or 350. And it spoke to me today in relation to this IRP hearing. And it's about beavers. And so, quote, I admire beavers because they keep at it. He was walking in the Adirondacks, that's my side. One big reason this wild countryside is so beautiful is because beavers find themselves a stream and cut down a bunch of trees to dam it, and thereby create a wetland for a few decades. They help themselves, but they help everything else far more. There's an explosion of life in those beaver ponds as the sun pours in the opening and a million creatures, large and small, find the pond. My work on this newsletter and the community we're building here together sometimes feels a little bit that way to me. One of my jobs is to open up the tangle of politics and technology and economics and science that surrounds the climate crisis and let the sun shine in, beaming on the things that matter the most. Usually that requires just steadily beavering away. But in a moment as dangerous and dynamic as this one, we're not actually going to win this fight the slow and steady way. We also need some dramatic change. This year has been high drama almost without cease. I started highlighting for you back in January the fear that we were going to see a truly horrific summer. Even I didn't quite guess its extent. The hottest weather on our planet in at least 125,000 years. With all the chaos that implies. But I did understand its potential implications. Above all, that it gives us a new opening to potentially make big change. If the last year has been about a phase change in our planet's climate, the next year has to be about a phase change in our planet's politics, unquote. I feel like there's two groups of people anymore on the planet. Those who know that the climate emergency is an existential threat to livable futures for our kids and our grandkids. And that those who deny science and pretend that it isn't. There's no room anymore for the views of the latter group if we are not going to become extinct. 350 Montana commissioned the Vibrant Clean Energy Study several years ago for Northwestern Energy, which modeled the fact they had done this for Colorado as well. And the conclusion of the Vibrant Clean Energy Study is that renewables are not only cleaner and better for the planet, they're cheaper. As for Northwestern Energy's proposed rate increase that is supposed to be regulated by the PSC, the ratepayers in our state deserve a commission that actually regulates utilities based on science and facts, not corporate greed. We need to send that IRP back to the drawing board. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's working.
Yep, go ahead.
My name is William Geer, G-E-E-R from Lowe. The integrated resource plan is supposed to provide transparency for customers who are likely to end up on the hook for new power plants. It's supposed to guide Northwestern's decisions about how to affordably and reliably provide electricity to its customers. It's supposed to help the Montana Public Service Commission determine if Northwestern's plan to build more power plants will result in affordable and reliable electric power for consumers. The draft plan fails to do any of the above. Polling shows that 58% of Montana support expanding clean energy over extractive energy sources. The 55% support a gradual transition to 100% renewable energy over the next 10 to 15 years. Northwestern is ignoring the majority of Montanans completely. Specifically, Northwestern Energy's integrated resource plan for 2023 fails to justify its proposal to build wildly expensive and polluting new fossil fuel plants. It fails to consider ways to reduce the need for power, particularly during times of high demand when energy prices are highest. It fails to consider the impact of proposed regulations of level toxic air pollutants, coal ash, and greenhouse gas pollution from the coastal power plant, and instead proposes to increase Northwestern's share of the antiquated super polluting power plant. It fails to meaningfully consider less expensive options such as renewable energy plus storage, increasing energy efficiency in emerging regional energy markets, instead focusing on its misguided conclusion that it needs more methane burning power plants. It fails to thoroughly consider how to replace the coal-fired power plant with a low-cost mix of clean energy solutions, and instead proposes replacing it in the distant future with nuclear power. And finally, it mischaracterizes and fails to account for trillions of dollars in federal funding from the Inflation Reduction Act and Build Back Better Act that are intended to accelerate the deployment of cost-effective clean energy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Joseph Knapp, K-N-A-P-P. I reside in Missoula. I've been here for 43 years now. Thank you for coming this evening and listening and hearing us out. I was lucky enough to serve this community as an elected member of the school board for 6 years. So I have great admiration for people who stand in front of the public and listen to really a lot of challenging comments, because they can come at you from all sorts of different directions. I think the thing I learned most from my time serving on our local school board was that probably the single most precious commodity that any of us who serve the public in that kind of a capacity have is trust. Can I be believed to be operating in a trustworthy fashion to serve those for whom I'm really elected or appointed? So I think that's a really key part of this whole discussion today is trust. And as I was thinking about this, we all have a dog in this fight. My dog has probably got 15 years left in it. But my grandsons, their dog has 70 years left in this fight. I'm blessed with a grandson this year, the oldest of our grandkids, who is a senior at Montana Tech, started his senior year yesterday. He's an environmental engineer. He'll plan on doing a master's program there following this. As I thought about this whole discussion tonight, it struck me that we listen to a lot of experts in a lot of different ways. But you know, people like my grandson, who's 22 years old, will be spending the next 50 years of his life once he graduates in this state. He will not leave, working to improve the environment we live in and the communities we serve. And it strikes me that before you all make a final decision, however that may be on this particular issue, is you take time to speak to those young people who are committing their time to this whole concept of energy independence and the environment we have to share and live in, and get their direct input. You have an incredible resource at Montana Tech, an incredible resource at MSU and the engineering departments of people who are going to devote their lives to environmental, to reversing environmental degradation, but also improving the ability of Montanans to live in this fine state of ours. So I encourage you before you're done to give them a call and have a sit down with these young people who are going to commit their lives to our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Members of the commission, thank you for appearing here tonight. My name is John Marshall, COHN, I reside just north of Hot Springs, Montana. I get all my power from Mission Valley Power, so in many ways I have no skin in the game in this. Now they do have skin in the game being a citizen of the state. We're all up on the third floor of this building tonight because it's built on a very solid foundation. When you want to build something, you got to have a solid foundation. Anybody that looks at the existing portfolio that Northwestern Energy has now, it's not real solid. You got basically 51, almost 52% of their energy production coming from coal, which is probably the least in thermal efficiency, and from wind, which is the most on the lot. Okay, with a foundation like that, not very stable, pretty shaky. They want to build something on top of that. I think it's a good idea. You can go ahead and try and implement this 20-year plan, but if you do so, it won't last 20 years because Northwestern Energy in full, they're going to go under from bad management in that 20-year period, probably even before that. So you might want to think about the employer, so they're going to go under. And I'm concerned about that as far as the long-term economic stability of the state and also energy production of the state. Because you got to have stability in both, and you're not going to get one from monopoly. And I remind everybody the reason we're here with monopoly tonight is because it was 25 years ago right now. There was a supermajority in the state of Montana that said we're now going to deregulate energy. We're in competition and lower rates in the marketplace. We've got a de facto monopoly. I would also encourage beyond this hearing that start the discussion about breaking up that monopoly. Competition in the marketplace is what we need, not only in politics, but also in energy. And I would encourage that. And as the other speakers have said, best thing to do is to listen to the younger members of this community, and I would hope that you would hold another listening session or an open session made by Zoom for all of the younger people in the state of Montana who are not able to be here tonight, because I see it's all a lot of graybeards like myself, and you need to hear more from the youth of this state than you do people like me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chelsea Liddell, CHELSEA. LIDDEL, and I live here in Missoula, and I'm here representing just myself. Everyone tonight has spoken very eloquently about the reasons that we're here and the long-term reasons that this IRP is problematic for our environment. And because this is my world, I am hoping that I can provide you some concrete examples of where in the IRP Northwestern has ignored best practices and has proposed something that is not only going to make our environment less safe, but also is going to make our electricity more expensive. So the first one of these is that Northwestern has entirely ignored load flexibility and demand response programs, both in their modeling and in their overall approach. So I want to just talk briefly about the 2019 report from Rattle that said that specifically for Minnesota, which is somewhat comparable to Montana in climate and a little bit in population, that 13 to 15% of the 2030 peak load, which is why we need these capacity resources, could be met by these load flexibility and demand response resources. So that covers quite a lot of this peak capacity that Northwestern is trying to meet with fossil fuel resources. And the cost from the same report, the cost of these programs is only about 2/3 of the cost of a gas peaker. So much more affordable, both for them and for us. And that 2/3 cost doesn't include all of the cost reductions that come from reductions in transmission and distribution lines that come from not needing to build T&D from these peakers to homes, because this peak reduction comes from the homes themselves. Additionally, it does not, that cost reduction doesn't take into account resilience benefits. So we have fewer outages because we have less demand in these homes, and also energy savings benefits, which benefits both people who are paying less for their electricity and also benefits the utility because they don't have to buy electricity during these peak times when it's really expensive on the wholesale market in the Northwest. And this is, their case for why we need these resources and their prime example in their IRP of what happens when we have these peak events throughout the region and the prices really spike. Examples, just so we get a sense of what I'm talking about here. On the residential side, we have automated demand response of things like a water heater, of home heating, of home cooling, and other devices like that. The utility can say, I'm going to turn this off for just a little bit we're gonna, by just taking a little reduction from each home, we're going to drastically reduce the overall peaking load across everyone, therefore saving everyone money. These resources include critical peak pricing, time of use rates, which are extremely easy to implement, residential storage, which someone talked about, Green Mountain Power. They've implemented an incentive program for residential storage extensively and done really great demand response with that. Not only reducing outages by a ton, but also shaping that peak. Manage electric vehicle charging, which Northwestern really is ignoring that electric vehicles are going to be a part of our future.
Ms. Liddell, could you wrap up? You're about 4 minutes into it right now. Thank you. Thank you.
In commercial and industrial. Other key points, Northwestern only considers daily charge and discharge of battery systems in their model. Battery systems can hold charge for more than a day. And that's when you have a 3-day lull, the battery energy system can still serve it, and you're going to highly undervalue a battery system if you only charge it and discharge it daily. In their analysis of the 2020 cold snap in December, they also totally failed to acknowledge storage as a resource. Finally, Northwestern apparently, according to their IRP, plans to rely on this additional Colstrip generation that comes online in 2026, but they plan on it going offline potentially by 2029. So we have 3 years of generation from this new resource, which just cannot be economical. So that's all I have for tonight, and I really thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Katie Spence, that's S-P-E-N-C-E, and I live here in Missoula. I work for the Montana Environmental Information Center, but I'm speaking here tonight as a ratepayer and as an individual. This integrated resource plan doesn't bring hope or solutions for people who desperately need a break from staggering utility bills. Northwestern Energy's plan for the next 20 years puts shareholders before us, the ratepayers. If Northwestern Energy makes an 8 to 12% return on capital projects, of course, the leadership is going to prioritize a plan that suggests they build as many of the biggest, most expensive facilities possible. The plan doesn't take advantage of existing infrastructure or federal funding from the Build Back Better and Inflation Reduction Acts. One example is found in figure 6-11 in the plan. It unfairly compares the cost and land use of a methane gas plant, a wind farm, and a solar farm by not factoring in the huge funding benefits available for developing wind and solar. To be fair, the plan acknowledges this funding source in the footnotes, but it's not actually portrayed, analyzed, or calculated. In other words, the plan makes a conclusion about what the best option is without actually proving it. Furthermore, if Northwestern Energy is able to get approval for us, the ratepayers, to pay for the cost of constructing these facilities, shareholders will make money hand over fist at the cost of our wallets, our climate, and our future. As many of the other speakers have said, if Northwestern and the PSC truly want to plan for the next 20 years, there would be more fair, unbiased consideration of solar and wind energy projects, storage technologies, energy efficiency and demand side management, connection to a larger regional grid where Montana could sell energy, and how to take advantage of trillions of dollars available in the Build Back Better and Inflation Reduction Acts. The recent ruling in the state of Montana is going to bring some much needed climate consideration to Montana processes, and it's past time for Northwestern Energy to listen to ratepayers and pursue cleaner, more affordable energy. It's not only the right thing to do, it's required under the law. Montanans deserve better, and I hope the PSC can advocate for us and our ability to live and work in this place we love. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, commissioners and members. Thanks for coming. My name is Greg Lind, L-I-N-D. I'm a captive Northwestern ratepayer, and I'll be succinct. I support much of what many of these folks have said. I'll give you a little different wrinkle. I had the dubious distinction of chairing the Montana Senate committee hearing on House Bill 25 in 2007 when we tried to undo some of the bad effects of the greed and hubris of the Northwestern Energy and its predecessor, Montana Power. I can see faces in here, a lot of people here will remember Northwestern Power. We had to pay for that and those resources several times over. They have gotten it wrong in the past. What they're planning for is maximizing profits. That's their duty to their shareholders. Your job, as I don't need to remind you, but I'm going to anyway, is to be the adults in the room. Don't let the teenagers stay up all night on the internet and make them go to school, do their homework, but make them set realistic rates and contract terms for us who are left here going forward. This commission has offered 2-year contracts for QFs in the past for renewable energy projects, small projects. We live in uncertain times. If you're not convinced about the climate change and the causes, you have to admit that these are uncertain times. Shorten the contracts up. Don't let them write contracts that lock us in for 30, 40 years to paying for their stranded resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Hello, commissioners. Thank you for being here. My name is Jim Roach. That's ROACH, and I live in Missoula. The testimony here tonight has been amazing. I can't add much to it. It's been intelligent and it's been articulate. And so I'm just going to skip through a lot of what I had to say, which would be just repetition. I'm just going to sum it up because I got to have my say. The historic Inflation Reduction Act was meant to move this country toward a clean energy paradigm. Instead, Northwest Energy is adding coal and forcing its ratepayers to buy big polluting fossil fuel plants. But don't worry, in their IRP, Northwestern pledges to, quote, acquire non-carbon emitting resources after 2035. Are you kidding me? They want to spend ratepayer money buying expensive fossil fuel generators until the year 2035. These generators will be pumping out climate-wrecking pollution for decades after that. Give me a break. Do they hear the news? Do they live in this world? Are they breathing the smoke and feeling the heat of the Montana summers that we're now facing? Listen, PSC, and heed what we say. We can't afford this. Pay attention to the Held versus Montana decision. Pay attention to new rules coming from the EPA regarding fossil fuel, GHG, and chemical pollutants. And pay attention to the demands of your constituents, the people who elected you to your positions. Don't be a rubber stamp for Northwestern Energy's expensive, backward-looking, planet-wrecking wishes. Please do your job and say no to this awful IRP. And thank you.
Thank you for your summary.
Well, my name is Jeff Padgett. That's Padgett, and I live in Missoula. I think I don't have any prepared remarks, and as the previous gentleman said, most people have kind of gone over territory that I would probably say, but I do think it's interesting. You're holding a hearing, I suppose you think it's important to hear what people have to say. Nobody supported this plan that I've heard this evening. And I don't know what you're hearing elsewhere, but you know, if you're getting this kind, you can dismiss it by saying, "Oh, it's Missoula." But you know, if you're getting that kind of input elsewhere, I think that's something you should take into consideration. Monica Tranelle brought up earlier about Northwestern being a profit-making company, and that's true. And I don't know whether what your bailiwick is, if it's just to give them an appropriate level of profit, but it would seem like there would be a bigger, you could take a narrow approach and you could take a big approach. And I would hope that you would take a big approach. You know, I assume that you have kids and grandkids. I do think that there's something to be said for that. We have to think about the future that we leave them. We can't just think about the dollar signs, because the dollar signs will lead us to, they led us to in the past, rivers that catch on fire, and, noxious air, ozone holes. I think we really need to consider the fact that whether you're willing to accept it or not, that the climate is changing and we're leaving. I'm 66. I'm going to die probably before the real impacts hit the fan, but my children will suffer through it. Perhaps your children, your grandchildren suffer through it. So I encourage you to take a wider scope and not just focus on the dollars and cents, but focus on what's the right thing. You're a public service commission. How are you serving the public? It's not just the profit. It is for the public good. That's the way I would picture it. And that's a hard thing to define. But I would suggest that a bigger picture. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Hello. Thanks. My name is Destiny Vail, DESTINI, Vail, VAILE. And I hope that you listen to the bounty of facts that you have heard here tonight.
Destiny, can you please give us your count?
Oh, I live here in Missoula.
Thank you.
I hope that you listen to the bounty of facts that you've heard here tonight. I am personally feeling a bit insulted by this IRP. I feel like Northwestern Energy is expecting it to go through based on assumptions that Montanans are ignorant and technophobic, and just not going to have much knowledge to push back with. I disagree with that. Also, being from Browning, I know that we have on the right there. We have plenty of natural resources like wind, but we also have in this state intellectual resources, programs from MSU, from Montana Tech, from University of Montana. Somebody here earlier was talking about their nephew, I believe, who was studying environmental resources at Montana Tech. And I also, being from Browning, this isn't necessarily about the factual parts of the IRP, but it is about the bigger picture. I have through my life, I mean, I live here now in Missoula, but through my life, visiting and from when I was a child, and see the difference just looking out. The person before me said they're 66 and they're not seeing the major changes. Well, I feel like in certain parts you can see the major changes. When I was growing up, the mountains were white through the summer. The tops of the mountains were white. Now, in the last few years, my mom, who's 84 now, she calls me and sounds scared. She's like, there's no snow on the mountains. There's not a speck of white in the late summer through the fall. And that's a big change. Berries, like berry picking, if you go berry picking, in the last few years, it's been way off. Like there's very few berries. It's like the times that they come out change, and then bears end up going into town and bothering people with that. And I just find it sort of insulting that Northwestern Energy is expecting us to pay them more so they can continue these practices that will destroy Montana land and well-being of Montanans.
Thank you.
Good evening and thanks folks for being here. Waiting. My name is Larry Keogh. That is Keogh. I reside in Hamilton. Transparency. I've been plowing through the IDR for the last week, and I'm still haven't got a great handle on all it contains, although it does seem pretty heavily weighted toward supporting decisions or choices already made by Northwestern Energy. Affordability seems to be out the window. What is the least expensive means of producing power? Well, it's from producing power or not having to produce power. So I think if we could lean a little bit more on conservation, I know that Northwestern has a program for energy conservation that isn't addressed in the IRP. Renewable energy with storage, it's not going to be as likely to violate our Montana constitutional rights to a clean and healthy environment. The recent Hill versus Montana is probably only the first of these lawsuits to be won. We're currently being held by the Montana supermajority legislators that are imposing violation to our state's constitution and the associated legal costs. This seems like an awful lot more of the same. It's the PSC's job to balance the interests of the ratepayers who are concerned about the utility rate increases with the need to maintain a financially sound utility that is capable of providing reliable service. Northwestern can provide affordable, reliable service. This IRP doesn't seem like it's going to have very good legs for that. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Madam President and Commissioner Fukicek, it's nice to see you both here. Thank you very much for going above and beyond what was required to have hearings around the state. I know that people all over the state where you have been really appreciate the fact that you've come to their communities and listened to them. Ann Hedges with the Montana Environmental Information Center. I reside in Helena, but MEIC has an office in Missoula and many members who live here. And I just want to say a couple points that I don't think have been raised. The first one is that the law says that if the plan does not meet the minimum filing requirements, it must be returned to the public utility with a list of deficiencies. This is the case. I will outline that in my comments that I submit in writing, but I can tell you right now that you were given permission by the legislature to craft rules and establish criteria by which the plan would be evaluated. And this plan fails to meet the majority of the criteria that the Public Service Commission established for the plan. You should reject this plan. There is no other option. Ultimately, what do we all want? We want the lights to go on and when we turn them on, and we want a power bill that doesn't give us a heart attack in the middle of winter. And this plan is supposed to be the foundation upon which we make sure those things don't happen. And in fact, it fails. It fails time and time again because Northwestern has rigged the system. It has rigged its modeling. It has rigged the numbers. It has ignored important opportunities to decrease the cost of renewable energy. But it has also rigged the system by not telling you and the public what the liabilities are of facilities like Colstrip and the Laurel natural gas plant. So there are all sorts of federal rules that are being proposed right now that are not mentioned or given very short shrift in this plan. We have the coal combustion residual rule at the federal level where EPA is expanding that rule. And many of the ponds at Colstrip will be covered by that rule and become much more expensive to clean up. We have the mercury and air toxics rule that Northwestern has already complained about because it's going to be so expensive for them to install the same particulate control technology, control arsenic and lead and other toxic air pollutants as every other facility in the nation already has. The power plant greenhouse gas rules not mentioned, regional haze rules. They may skip this planning period in regional haze and not have to minimize their emissions that impact parks and wilderness areas. But I can tell you the next planning period in a few years, they won't be able to continue to ignore the regional haze rules that they and the state have been ignoring for far too long now. And one more thing, the price of fuel. So I just happened to be looking at one of the dockets on the Public Service Commission's website yesterday, and I found that there's a recommendation to increase the gas price by 33% per therm of gas, of heat. That's a 9% annual increase for ratepayers. This IRP projects a 2% increase annually for gas. The price of gas has not been properly reflected in here, and in another docket, Northwestern is asking for far more than a 2% annual rate increase. That is just misleading.
Same with the price of coal from the Colstrip Power Plant. You have a facility whose contract expires with the mine by 2025. It is a very complex and expensive facility. It's the most expensive mine in the Powder River Basin. It is going to get more expensive as other owners of the Colstrip plant exit, and that is just not covered in this plan. And that is cost that we as customers are going to have to pay. So we can do better. Northwestern can do better. And I urge the commission to reject this plan and make them go back and do the job that they were supposed to do by law in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, thank you for being here. My name is Brad Stacy, S-T-A-C-E-Y, and I'm from Plains, Montana. And I drove through the Paradise Fire this morning. It's still smoking pretty good, even after an inch of rain yesterday. And you see this weather happening worldwide, and it's scary that this is the hottest year on record and likely the hottest year in, what was it, 120,000 years. But what's either scarier is this might be one of the coolest years for the foreseeable future. And the Paradise Fire, or the East River Road fire, is not the first one that's been close to my house. It's about 10 miles away. We've had several fires in the last few years, and there's always a time period when the air has been unhealthy to breathe. I volunteer to take care of the soccer fields in Plains. And Monday morning, I just could not work because the smoke was so heavy. But what's even sadder is there has been several days these last few years where the kids can't practice because the smoke is too thick, the air is unhealthy. And well, I agree with almost everything that's been said today. I think this IRL that the Northwest Energy has put out is ridiculous. But I just want to see that this is a climate emergency. It is definitely an emergency, and we need to change as quickly as possible. And it is possible to change quickly. And we need to do this for our family and who comes after us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners Fielder and Bukacek. My name is Jonathan Carlin. I'm a K-A-R-L-E-N. I'm a member of the state legislature. I represent part of Western Missoula, Frenchtown, and Houston. Wanted to express some of the sentiments I've been hearing from constituents who've been following this very closely. But I guess first off, I was on the website of the Public Service Commission, and it says that the Public Service Commission strives to ensure that ratepayers, so our constituents, have continued access to, quote, utility services that are affordable, reliable, and sustainable for the long term. And I really don't believe that this IRP represents those stated values of the PSC. And it's my hope that when you make a decision on this IRP, that you'll review it from this lens, and I truly do believe and hope you'll find this inadequate. I won't repeat the other points today because I agree wholeheartedly, but I will say that constituents are reaching out concerned and frankly scared about the potential of paying drastically more to keep the lights on and to heat their homes. And I'm talking about people on a fixed income, seniors, young families, renters, and all of this for bringing us backwards when it comes to the rest of the world and other states which are rapidly transitioning to renewable energy. And they're concerned that Montana's falling behind on being what we should be, an exporter of reliable, low-cost renewable energy. And at this rate, we're going to have higher rates and a more polluted environment. And the transition to renewable energy, and I heard this in the during the legislative session nearly every week, can be a source of really good jobs in rural Montana. And it makes me incredibly frustrated that the PSC would stand in the way of that. The energy resource plan, again, I won't repeat all the points that others made, but I truly don't believe it justifies its proposal to build new fossil fuel plants in favor of investing in renewable energy production and storage, something that every other state is going to be doing and is doing. And the plan also doesn't adequately account for federal funds and resources for renewable energy that will reduce the cost for Montanans and reduce pollution. And I also believe that the PSC should be requiring and considering the costs of carbon pollution in the plan, because my constituents, some of whom are in ag, they see it every day. And between wildfire smoke and as other people have said, I think that as in terms of how to represent the people that we both were, elected by, I think we have to be considering these factors. So thank you, and I really appreciate you coming to Missoula.
Thank you, Representative. And last commenter?
Yep, I think it'd be pretty quick. Name's Brett Boval, B as in boy, O-V-A-L, based in Missoula. Generally agree with all the stuff that Chelsea Adele said earlier about the technical things. She's great. Everyone should go ask her those things. I just want to come for data visualization, and some of the graphs are quite annoying in ways that I think would be helpful for the next rev. I just wanted to put that down. I do think that it's totally fair to disagree with model assumptions from NREL, but if you want to, it would be very helpful to highlight when those assumptions are different and why. I think that would build trust in a way that seems to be lacking, at least when I read it. There are a lot of graphs, 1, 3, 1, 6, 7, a lot of these ones where they show falsely confident kind of projections. And when you try to dig into it, all you can really tell is that it's a linear regression that goes up 1% every year. It's not really clear why. I think a lot of those confidence bounds would be helpful to kind of understand the claims that they're trying to make. 4.6, which is kind of comparing to California. I appreciate trying to compare to other states. California does seem to be an interesting one as opposed to comparing to Washington or someone nearby. And they also do nameplate for those peaker plants, which in California makes it look like they're huge amounts when in reality they're not used at 100% capacity. And then I think the one that's been mentioned before is 611, which is this kind of what would happen if you had to replace the Yellowstone with wind. And also with Q&A on 88, 889. It's somewhat insulting to just, no one disagrees that renewables can be intermittent. That's kind of the point of trying to pair them with storage or other different shifts. So when the models, or when they're giving us graphs that don't take that into account, it is disingenuous to the borderline misleading. And so I think that any of those comparisons that don't take into storage just don't really make sense. And that was just kind of the general takeaway, that I know this isn't easy and I appreciate the groups trying to do this, but NREL does a great job. There's a bunch of people here would love to work on the models, compare it if that was available. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And that was the last commenter. Seeing no further commenters, we are ready to adjourn the listening session. Just a reminder, the commission is going to be accepting further comments, public comment in writing and by phone, all the way through close of business on August 28th. So that's Monday, August 28th, near the end of this month. And to provide public comment, you can call us. You want to write down the number. It's 800-646-6150, or you can email your written comments and your any type of graphics and charts and things you'd like to submit. You can email that to the commission at esc.help@mt.gov. And please remember that deadline of August 28th. The commission has not made a decision. We are going to synthesize the comments with our staff. And we have a consultant that's also examining some of the technical issues in this IRP. And we will conduct our own analysis as well. So this is just really the beginning of this process for the commission, not the end. So you're welcome to continue if you have additional thoughts to submit further comments until the end of this month. And all of our proceedings as we deliberate on this will be open to the public as well. You'd be welcome to attend our meetings. Mr. Bolton.
There's one question. That's a quick clarifying question on process for comments.
Question on process, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Should people who commented publicly tonight submit their comments via email to make sure they're reviewed in that manner?
I think for clarity's sake, that's helpful if you type them out. Certainly this is part of the record and these comments are being taken as part of the record. However, for clarity's sake, to make sure that the words that you spoke, that you wrote down to speak this evening, that would be helpful.
Thank you very much for taking the question.
Thank you. And I want to congratulate you all because it's 8:03, so you did good. Thank you for that. I hope you all have a good evening and drive safe. This meeting is adjourned now at 8:03 p.m. Thank you.